Today, we're gonna be planting the second phase of our native English cottage garden. Howdy neighbor, how is your garden growing? Me, I am super excited. You know I'm excited. Whenever we deal with Florida native plants and Florida native wildflowers, I'm always like, yay! It's so much fun. And I'm really excited because while we did our planning session in the last video, of course we went shopping. Today is where we get to actually lay out the plants, see if we missed anything, and kind of see the plants start to come together. I feel like this end where we did the phase one it's starting to get closer and closer to like being the picture in my head. And so I'm really excited to go get this other section done because it's just like in my head, we're getting closer and closer to like, you know, you may not know all the details, but in your head, you've got this really good picture. And I feel like there are parts of the native garden that are starting to like come together better and better each year. So I'm really excited to get this second phase going. So let's head over to the plants. I'm gonna talk you through which plants we bought, and then we're gonna start placing them. And then of course we're gonna dig tons of holes. So many holes I have to dig. The plants that we have to work with are 2 purple coneflowers, 3 orange coneflowers, 2 pink tropical sages, 3 Florida paintbrushes, 4 blue-eyed grasses that are on the bluer end, not the purple end, 2 sky flowers, 2 bees balms, and a scarlet hibiscus in a pear tree. So what's gonna make these plants really great is that 1, we're bringing in some different varieties of plants that I don't have. 2, we're bringing in more of those plants that I do already have, and some of those ones being ones that we know the pollinators like. 3, we do know that pollinators often are specialists. A lot of people will think of honeybees. Honeybees will kind of, you know, whatever plant that they can. But a lot of our other native pollinators, actually, they only like certain plants. So the more variety that we get into our native plant gardens, the better it is for more wildlife. The next thing is that I'm really excited because I feel like these plants are gonna definitely play into the looks of like an English cottage garden. Because when I was doing a lot of like research on English cottage gardens and looking for ones that had native plants, there are some shapes like coneflowers that are really prevalent. Some of these other ones, I mean, they're just gonna be so different. Because when I look at a lot of English cottage gardens, right, like they have things like roses. And even though we have native roses, they still don't look like the roses that you would think of for a classic English cottage garden. The other thing is that, you know, we're gonna bring in a lot of textures, and we of course have some host plants like the swamp milkweed that we know are gonna bring in lots of big butterflies, AKA the monarch. So I'm really excited. And I just feel like, of course, okay, so here's the thing. So here's the thing. I'm really excited because of that scarlet hibiscus. When I walked in after I did my shopping trip, I was like, Ben, it's like I figured out the plant. And why it like got me so excited is that, you know, I have my list of like plants that I eventually want to get. Like I have tons of Florida native plants that I want to get, even though I already have like, well, I have over 60 species for sure at this point. But there was one that like I've wanted to have it. I just haven't really been able to figure out like what's the right spot. And to be able to find a plant that you've wanted and it solves a problem in a design you're doing, it's like super exciting. And I'm really excited the fact that like I think the scarlet hibiscus is gonna be the right thing for this space. Yeah. It's not like classic English cottage garden though either. I mean, because this scarlet hibiscus definitely, I think most people who would see it would think it has much more tropical look, which I think fair. But I think one of the big things about like English cottage gardens is it's like you have pops of color and groupings. And this area we were gonna work on for months as I've been thinking about it, I've kept thinking like, I really want red in that section. And I had been thinking about things like cardinal flowers, and there's like a couple other like kind of more stalk type flowers. But I was just like, or tropical sage. And I was just like, I just don't feel like they're gonna get enough like red in the area as much as I wanted. And to like finally be like, oh, scarlet hibiscus, you've been wanting this, and it will have like flowers. Yeah. So the colors we're gonna be working with in the areas, we're gonna have blues. There's already some blues in the area. And I'll show you, you know what, let me start placing plants, and then I'll show you kind of the groupings of colors so that you can get inspired for your own, whether you're gonna do an English cottage garden, or you're just thinking about getting more native plants into your area, or you're thinking about a wildflower garden, whichever you're thinking about doing. Let me show you what I'm gonna go do. Let me go figure out placement of plants, and then I'll talk you through why I'm placing them, and then why I'm thinking through the groupings that I'm thinking of. Ponytail activated. Here is the space we're working with. Basically this whole section up until we get to this scrub mint. That's what I want to work with first. So let me go start placing plants. I feel like this fritillary is trying to tell me something because that plant's getting ripped out. Let me walk you through how this is working in my head, and hopefully you can follow along and it gets you inspired to create your own native English cottage garden. When it comes to placing plants, I always start with the plants that I know exactly where they're gonna go. So one of the things that when we discussed what we were thinking about buying and like what I was planting is I knew I wanted to get more of this Florida paintbrush. And you may look at it right now and it just looks like a big green stick. Maybe not stick, but I mean, it's not doing a thing here. But what's gonna end up happening is it's gonna think almost like a inverted pyramid type shape, right? Or maybe cone. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna get a lot of pink flowers right here. Not pink like that flamingo pink, but more, maybe more magenta-y, I guess would be the color. So we're gonna get that there. And this, and this are the same plant. So you see I placed them in a triangle, but they're not, how do I say this? The triangle, neither of the axes is like centered as a person's walking by. They're kind of centered off this way. And one of the main things about English cottage gardens is they're supposed to kind of look like you just happened upon them out in the world of nature. So you're not necessarily supposed to have very clear lines. So anything that's going to create a very linear shape, curves, mounding, that's kind of the things you want to look for. So by doing a triangle, or I'm sorry, a diamond shape, we're going to kind of stay away from any obvious signs. And as the plant fills in, it's not going to look like a diamond. It's just going to kind of look like a clumping. And so that's why I tend to try to create some clumpings, because that's where I feel like when I did this last year, I did not do a good job. I didn't clump things. I like spread everything around. So you had like a dash of pink here, dash of pink here, and then you really didn't get a sense of like pink. Or maybe there were similar colors like yellow, but they weren't the same type of yellow. So it just becomes like a hodgepodge, you know? The next thing that I knew I wanted to do was have cone flowers right here. So I have the 3 orange cone flowers. Now you can see there's actually a rouge plant here. This is just reseeding from other plants. So we will just let that compost directly in place. And actually, I'm so sorry, this rouge plant's also gonna go. Now don't be sad. There is tons of it immediately behind it, all reseeded from this original plant, but these just, it's not happy. Like, look at the difference between these. Look at this. These leaves look so stressed. So like, look at how, and when I say they're looking stressed, look at how like they're not smooth edges. You got all this variegation. They are just unhappy. Versus we just literally come feet. And look at the difference in how all these leaves are looking. This was all self-seeded. It was allowed to establish itself all on its own. See, we see a little bit more stress, but this is probably because it's getting too much sun right here. It doesn't like that. So it's got a shadier location that it found, that it likes. So we're gonna let it do its thing, okay? And that means this plant over here, I'm so sorry. We're going to say goodbye. Actually, it might be a few plants. Ugh. We're just gonna stick it yonder. Because I don't mind if it reseeds back there, but I don't want it up here anymore because it's not happy. So I'm just not gonna, it's just gonna continue to look really sad. So I'm just gonna take it out of the design. And actually that's gonna happen with 3 other little plants here. I'm not stepping on one, am I? Okay, I'm not. Which is the woodland phlox. I thought the challenge is semi-shade. When a plant says it's semi-shade, semi-shade can mean a lot of different things. Full sun people get, it's like, as long as the sun's out and it can hit me, it's hitting me. So people are like, yeah, I get full sun. Full shade's like, it never sees the sun. We all get that. But semi-shade could mean anything from it gets a little bit more shade than full sun, or a little bit of sun during the day, just a dash more than full shade, and everything in between. So it's kind of challenging at times to understand like semi-shade, like how much semi-shade are we looking for? So I took it, I tried it, it didn't work here. So, and it's all the signs on this plant is like, I am not happy, I'm getting way too much sun. So I'm actually gonna we're gonna dig these ones up and we'll relocate them. So just ignore them as I'm continuing to show you plants. I know this was a little bit of a detour, but I wanna just explain that because you're gonna see a few plants and you're gonna be like, man, that seems like you're planting them really close. I'm gonna pull them out and they're gonna be fine. They're gonna go into another location and hopefully they're happier there. So just ignore them in this design. And this one we just pulled, we'll just, off it goes. Okay, so back to this section. So the orange cone flower, right, is very similar to like our black-eyed Susans. Ooh, back there. The main difference is this is gonna have more orange. I know, shocker. But it's gonna be more like this kind of rusty orange. It's still gonna have like a dark brown, black center. So imagine that. We're gonna have a cluster of those. So each of these is gonna end up mounding. They might be a little too close to each other, but I'm okay with that because they'll get better and better over the years. And these are not great reseeders, so we're just gonna let them do their thing. So we're gonna have a mound of orange, rusty orange here. So we've got this pink hanging out up high up here. We got orange hanging out here. Okay, so keep going with me on this. Okay, what we have from the previous time when I did this is I still have this and this. This is woodland sage. It's gonna be, it's very similar to this in flower shape, but it's this very nice blue. So you got blue here. Then this, and this are all the same plant. They're sky flower. These look like maybe they're not quite as happy. I don't know. They died back a bit in winter, which is not unusual for a native plant. But as they're coming back, I kind of see how they're like coming along the ground and then up. I wonder if they're just not as thrilled. Not sure, but we got more of it. So it's gonna continue to come along the ground. Blue flowers, very pretty. So we're gonna have some, this blue for the sage will be a little bit lighter, and then these will have blue on them, and it'll be more speckled and dispersed. It's not gonna be like it's not gonna be like here where it's like orange. It's gonna be like blue, which I find often that blue doesn't tend to like pop. Well, it definitely doesn't pop on video and film very well. You know, because like I have things like the ocean morning glories, they're putting out some great blooms, but because they tend to like a little bit shadier locations, they're beautiful in person, but honestly, I don't know how well they're gonna ever show up on camera. So it's gonna be very like blue. That's okay. I don't care. It's for me, not for you. But I mean for you too, but not for me. But you get what I'm saying. Then as we continued, I knew I wanted to do the blue-eye grass right here because these plants stay pretty small. We actually have some on the other end, which is what inspired me to keep going with it. So we got it here, 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 and it turns the corner. So I'm just gonna keep adding it. I don't know if I'm gonna go all the way to the middle here. Right now it's pretty even. Like if I back up, let me see if I back up. You can see like it kind of stops and it's symmetric on the house profile. So I don't know, I might do more here. I might not. With whatever I'm gonna do here, we'll figure that out later. But for right now, I just figured we'll just continue this idea of this blue-eyed grass, which of course have these very pretty blue flowers, which are just opening up because the sun is starting to hit them. They're all closed up because of last night. They just close up at night. But you can see there's kind of this like paler blue. So now we get to a few flowers that I bought that really didn't belong in the area, and the flowers that I wasn't sure where I was gonna put them, plus our focal point piece. So I'm just gonna mention a couple more flowers in this area and kind of how, let me take you off the beaten path. Let me show you the ones that are not gonna go in the area. They were just gonna fill in a couple spaces that are nearby. So like I said, I focus on what I know before I try figuring out what I don't know what I'm gonna do. So this bees balm, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's a bees balm right here, AKA dotted horse mint. They're going there. These will end up being like whitish with a dash of pale pink, and they are gonna mound really big, and that whole area will be kind of like white, pale pink. White, pale pink. And I think it'll be really nice because what we already have here is like this speckled white. We're gonna have blue here, purple here, yellows back here, and then mauve back here. So we got all these like bold colors. So I was gonna break it up by like being like white. I lined them up with the center of these arches because I don't mind that this looks a little bit more structured, because we're gonna do a little bit probably more structured something in this area, because English cottage gardens can be a mix of both. Hi, Monarch. So that's why I put those there. Here are purple cone flowers. I bought 2 purple cone flowers last year. You can see there's one right here, which did flower first thing in the winter. It is looking very small and sad, and I don't know if that was more from the cold snaps. I don't know, and I don't know if it's not getting enough sun. Thought we had accidentally pulled the other one, but honestly, I just was looking around the other day and I was like, oh, what's this? And apparently that's the other purple coneflower. So that's there. And it looks actually a lot happier than that one. So we're very excited. So let's back up a little bit so you can kind of see there's one there. And I'm gonna add these other two purple coneflowers. In theory, I should have added them closer, but because I already planted this oringeo, which will be blue, we're just gonna go and like, boom, do another purple coneflower section right here. And that kind of ends this space. So you kind of see we got like a clear line of demarcation of whatever I'm gonna figure this out. And we kind of got a similar thing happening here. Like this is it, this is where we're gonna stop. So we have this, what I'll call phase 3 space, which left us with 9 plants I still hadn't placed yet. So a couple of them, so this is how I usually work. Put the things in that you know exactly where they're gonna go, and then you have an idea-ish of where these other ones are gonna go, and then you kind of can play around with those. The swamp milkweed, I had no idea where they're gonna go, but what I had done with the other side, and I thought worked really well, is like I basically placed everything, and because swamp milkweed becomes basically sticks throughout the year, because the monarch caterpillars just eat them to sticks. That's what they do. And what I like to do is kind of mix them in between the other wildflowers so you don't really notice them when they're all eaten down, because that's what a lot of people do, is like they have them all by themselves over here, yonder, and then they get really frustrated that they just look like sticks, and it's like, and then they think there's things that are wrong, and it's like, it's not wrong, that's just like what happens. So when you mix them, like I'll show you over here, they're not honestly that noticeable. So you can see one that's like growing back right here. Take it down to the ground right here, but you probably don't notice this one as much or this one as much, and they're just sticks. But as all this other stuff fills in, it's not a big deal that they look like just sticks. Now as the year goes, it's gonna start to like, they will like put out more stalks, and they will tend to like fill in more and more, and hopefully the monarchs don't eat them down all year, because in Florida, we don't really, they like kind of migrate, but they don't really migrate. It's different than what happens up north. I saw a really good question about this actually the other day on a butterfly gardening group. Someone was like, they bought a lot of milkweed, they were stressed that everything was sticks. They're like, when do the monarchs leave? And it's like in many like north central Florida, like yeah, the monarchs leave in the winter, but once like it gets warm, they're there until it gets cold again. Like that's what happens. So they don't go. So your milkweed just keeps getting, it just keeps going back to stick. So put it in amidst other things. And actually studies have shown monarchs like mixed wildflower gardens better than just like milkweed. They like that better. So, and then of course they like wildflowers that are in the straight aster family. So put lots of asters in, which I have a ton of asters in here. So that's the thing. So that was my idea with milkweed, is like buy more milkweed and then just shove it in between. That's what I did, is I just kind of put the milkweed here and there and there and there. And my number is always 6, because 6 seems to be the point at which I feel okay about how many caterpillars I've gotten. And what you will often see with the milkweed is like, they'll eat it down, and then you'll have a little bit less monarchs for a minute, and then your plants will start to come back, like that one was over there. And then they'll start showing up again and laying eggs, and it takes like a week or 2 for the eggs to hatch. So your plant starts to fill out more, and then they hatch, and then they eat it to sticks again. And it just kind of keeps doing that over and over and over again throughout the season. So we've got a bunch of it mixed in. As this all fills in, we'll make it a little bit harder for them to lay eggs, and that'll allow this to take off a little bit more. And then hopefully, if we do get them to flower, it will be a pale pink. That's what's going there. Honestly, from an English cottage garden design, I don't count on that pink ever really coming in. It may. Usually when I see it, it's like late summer, very early fall at best, and then it's like, as soon as it blooms, it's like 5 seconds later, then another caterpillar comes in and like eats it. So from a color perspective, we're not worrying about that. And that leaves, who's left? Oh, of course, the best is for last. Last but not least is a plant that I was not planning on getting, but I've had on my list forever, which is that scarlet hibiscus. Now this thing's gonna get 5 to 8 feet tall. So right, we're gonna be like up in here, which is okay. It's gonna, this area is a decent shade. It's gonna get sun. It gets sun from this angle and this angle. So it will get sun throughout the year / day, but it will also just be able to fill in this spot, and it won't really block anything that cares as much. Well, maybe this pumpkin, but the rouge plant won't care that it's shading it out. And then basically what I did is I left a pretty big space, except for that woodland phlox, but that's gonna get moved. So that is the design. What do you think? Do you like it? What would you put in your garden based on what I've done? Any of these plants in particular, like, oh my God, I want it. It might be hard to tell right now because they're all like just different green textures. There's not really much in the flower perspective at this point. Give it like 2 months is kind of the time period, 2 months, and then you're gonna start to see flowers on many of these plants, but not all of them. So enough chatting. We now need to dig a bajillion holes, which is my favorite thing. So I've got my handy dandy shovel. I'm not gonna pull my mattock out because this soil, what I realized last time, is very, very loose, so it's easy to dig holes in. So what I like to do is I like to go from one end to the other and dig the holes, because when I've done this before, I have forgotten plants and then weeks later have realized, like, why is there a black pot in there? Yeah, didn't plant that plant, did ya? So I got my handy dandy shovel, and I've got, these are farmer dispense sleeves, which the buggy boos are out and they're starting to nip and bite and come out of the ground a little bit like the sand fleas. So just gives my hands a little bit more protection. I didn't want gloves. I might regret that later. But what's really cool about these is they're kind of like Under Armour, you know, where they like, it makes you cooler, not hotter. It's like that. So that's nice. Plus, like, if you're using sharp tools, it can, like, I don't know if you ever see the commercials, they're like stabbing themselves with like hand trowel or something. I don't know, they're not stabbing themselves, but it can protect your skin from scrapes. And I've got some twigs and stuff around here, so, you know, this is good to have a little bit more protection. And we're heating up. Ugh, it's okay, we're okay. I like the heat more than the cold, so yeah. Okay, let's dig holes. So we're gonna actually start in the phase 1 section, just so I don't forget those, because that would be like me to totally forget those. Yay! So next I'm gonna go take out these woodland foxes and relocate them before I start digging a bunch of new holes and accidentally kill them. Okay, the hand shovel, not working so great at the moment, so I'm switching very quickly to my mattock, because there are so many plants to plant, and the sooner I make this choice, the faster it's gonna go. And actually, like, is it gonna rain today? It was only supposed to be overcast, and this is looking like rain. So I guess we're racing the rain too. Woo, let's dig lots of holes. So I've got everything planted except for the scarlet hibiscus, which is a 3-gallon pot, which means I have to dig deeper. Well, I'm done digging 30 holes, and now all we need to do for this section is just wait. wait for everything to get established, wait for it to start blooming. And honestly, knowing that a lot of native plants, especially like our scarlet hibiscus, it's going to be in next year and the year after where it's going to start looking some of its best. Potentially not really this year, but we invest in the future because we want wildlife, and it's just pretty, and it's going to be this gorgeous English cottage garden. Well, while you wait, if you're interested in seeing how phase 1, that section got done, here's the shopping video and the video where I put everything in. If you want to see why and how I picked out these plants, go ahead and check out this video right here. If you want some really easy ways to amend your sandy soil, check out this video right here. And last but not least, if you're a strong supporter of Florida native plants and want to continue to see gardening videos like this, go ahead and like this video, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.